listening to the Rainmaking Podcast, hosted by high-stakes headhunter, author, and professional speaker, Scott Love.
You're listening to the Rainmaking Podcast, and my name is Scott Love. Thanks for joining me today. This is episode 70. I can't believe that there's 70 shows that we've done in the last year and a half, and I hope that if you have time, go back through some of those. The way I try to list them is the title first. What's the topic? So then you can decide, does it make sense for me to listen to this? And then you can see who the guest was, and then make sure to go to the show notes because then you can connect with the guest. And if you have any questions about any of those, if you want to reach anybody, if you can't reach them directly, just let me know. And if you have any suggestions for future guests, please give me a shout. Let me know who they are. If you've got book recommendations of authors that have written about sales or business development, I'm always interested in getting people like that on the show. Today, we've got a little bit of a different show where we're talking about process. We're talking about making decisions based on data. This is going to be a topic that is helpful for everybody, regardless of your role. If you own a company, if you're an executive in an organization, if you're a law firm leader, then this is one that you definitely need to listen to because we've got Sachin Bakhai on the show. He is an expert in technology and data, and his company, Law KPIs, helps law firms out specifically to make better decisions based on data. So you can connect with him on the show notes. He's a visionary technologist. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's been working for over 20 years doing consulting and product startups. He's very smart and has some great ideas about how you can look at trends and look at data and make better decisions in terms of clients, in terms of hiring, in terms of anything related to business growth. I hope you get some great ideas from my conversation with Sachin today. Thanks for listening. Hey, this is Scott Love. Thanks for joining me on the Rainmaking Podcast. Our guest today is Sachin Bakhai, CEO of Law KPIs. Sachin, thanks for joining me on the show today.
Hey, Scott. Good afternoon. How are you? And thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you here. And just so that everybody knows about our topic, it's managing your firm like a business. Know your numbers. And this is something that isn't going to be just for law firms. It certainly is. That's what Sachin's focus is. But this will apply to everybody else because we're talking about data. And Sachin, tell me about your background. What did you start at when you started your professional career? And what are you doing today?
Absolutely. So I started out as an Oracle consultant. So I used to implement Oracle ERP and Oracle Analytics for Fortune 1000 companies. So I have been playing with a huge amount of data for a very long time. And a few years ago, we started a product called Easylytics that is designed for mid-market manufacturing and distribution companies to be able to consolidate data from multiple different silo applications and give them the ability to identify growth opportunities. So that's where they can actually analyze information about their customer, their product mix, salespeople, territory, see what is working and what is not working. That's so great. About a year ago, one of my manufacturing clients, a law firm, was struggling with having some good information. So they reached out to us, we built a solution for them, and then we spoke to a few other lawyers, about like 20 plus lawyers in and about Dallas, to see if this would make sense. And they all agreed that, this is something that the law industry needs, and nobody is focusing on providing a consolidated solution for the law industry. So that's how we turned that particular solution into a product.
That's great. So you do data for other types of industries also?
Yes. Our main business is for doing it for manufacturing and distribution. Mm-hmm. And about a year ago, we started building it for the law firms. So we are not lawyers. I don't come from a law background, but I understand data and technology really well. So wow, that's great. My goal is to help small and mid-sized business, right? Law is one vertical, but help small and mid-sized businesses consolidate data from various different applications and present it in a meaningful way that they can actually take action.
That's great. And I think that's what data is all about, is help you make decisions to take action. And personally, I'm a data junkie. I stay up late at night reading spreadsheets and trying to understand what different trends are so I can be ahead of the curve.
and all that, especially as it relates to client development. But why do you think data is important to those company leaders or firm leaders, and why now?
It is like every company on an average, a small size companies, they use at least 5 to 7 different applications. And they spend a tremendous amount of time in extracting and compiling and building models in spreadsheets. And they spend very little time in actually analyzing it, right? So by the time they consolidate all the information, they wait for the month end close to get the numbers, the month is already over. So you can only look at it in a rear view mirror. You cannot do anything about that.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just kind of curious, when you say they'll work with 5 different applications, what are examples of those, and what's some of the data that they're actually tracking?
So this is like, their ERP system where they have their customers, their products, their finances information. They have their CRM system. In case of law, every small to mid-sized law firms, they use a case management system. Right. So the information from the case management system, their CRM system, from QuickBooks, where we get the financial and the payroll information, all this information needs to be merged and married together. If they spend a lot of money on Google and Facebook ads, we need to get information from them to see if the money that's spending on marketing, how much ROI it is generating for them.
So let me understand then your focus, and I think it makes sense, but I just wanted to make sure I understand. Your focus is those people managing data within their own business, not necessarily data overall from other competitors or other industry trends. Is that correct?
Yes, are mainly focusing on data within the organization. And in occasional cases, we integrate data from outside sources also, just in case if that data can help them identify a leading indicator.
Okay, got it. And so is there anything related to today's world that makes that even more important than before?
Absolutely. So a lot of companies, right, they work on extremely tight margin. They need to be able to make quick decisions. So it is important for everyone to understand what is working and what is not working. In case of lawyers, when they have multiple practices, it is very important to understand which practice is more profitable compared to the other practice. So if they need to hire an associate or hire another attorney, they know exactly what the pipeline looks like and where should they make the hire. In case of manufacturing and distribution, they need to understand which products are generating better margins, right? I could be selling the same product from multiple manufacturers, but if product A is getting me better margins, I would probably have my salespeople focus on selling that product versus selling it from some other manufacturers.
Right.
And these decisions need to be made on almost like on a daily basis, so that they can quickly, the salespeople, the team can make quick actions.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. And are there any trends that people need to pay attention to? Is this data, is it mostly related to business development? Like, what are the most significant applications that you've seen company executives and law firm executives use data for?
We all focus on acquiring new customers, right? But the existing customers that we have, we rarely do any analysis to see how profitable they are, right? If they're still a customer, but if they used to buy like $100,000 worth of products, and if they are not buying it this time, it means we are losing them to a competitor. So it's important to understand the shrinkage within our existing customers, and not just in revenue, but shrinkage in margins as well. So same thing with lawyers, right? If you have a consistent client base, are they growing or not? Within the clients, are they growing or not, or they're just stagnant, right? So what do we need to do in order to get in front of them at the right place at the right time?
Right. What other decisions do you think organizations have to use data for besides business development, where they should get more clients and things like that?
A lot of times they look at their inventory on the manufacturing side. If their inventory is about let's say 60 days and over, and they're not able to turn it around, this is something that they immediately feed to the marketing department, so that the marketing department can come up with plans for promotions.
I see.
So it is extremely important for each department to actually play their role and leverage the data that's going to help them do their job better.
Have you seen executives kind of give pushback or just say, oh, that doesn't apply to us. We don't need to worry about that. It's too much work. Have you seen that before?
Yes, I see that a lot, especially older executives who have been, it's a family business or a managing partner who's been, an attorney for like 40 years. He said, oh, I've been doing this for a long time. I know exactly what it works. But they make those decisions based on their gut. They don't really make decisions based on data.
Right.
And a lot of times we have seen that their gut decisions could be right, but they could be more effective and more productive and profitable if they leverage the data to make the decisions.
Right, absolutely. Have you seen this as it relates to hiring associates, partners, other employees within law firms and other types of organizations?
Absolutely. So one of the KPIs with a lot of our clients, they measure is the utilization, right? And utilization is not only in the billable work they do, but in terms of how much they're contributing towards the admin work for the firm, how much are they contributing towards business development for the firm, how much are they contributing towards marketing, right? Now, every data is so important. So everyone should be responsible for doing their part, right? So are they contributing to the digital strategy? Are they writing blogs? Are they showing themselves as the subject matter expert or not? Right, so a lot of the HR members, they look at this data to see who is contributing and who is not. And based on that, they, it kind of helps them identify what is the right persona that they need to focus in terms of future hiring.
So they can actually, like you mentioned, a persona, they can have a persona like an ideal type of employee or future colleague based on data. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. Because, we have seen that, a lot of times, right? A simple example, two salespersons selling the same product in the same territory, but they both are getting different margins because one could be just meeting the revenue numbers. He's compromising and discounting too much and, selling the product at a lower price. A lot of times they don't have these policies in place. So the management does not have the visibility who is doing what until they drill down deeper. So that could be a case where, either you fire that salesperson or you have to train that salesperson to get better margins. It is important for HR also to look at certain metrics to see what is happening. A lot of times, they have a lot of training budgets and training dollars, but not everybody goes and signs up for training, right? So this kind of information helps the HR to constantly push and make sure that their team is trained and they are always learning new technology and new processes.
So there's no end. You could go on and on and on and find new things to measure and new decisions with data. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. It's not just for the executives or the board that they need to look at the data. Most of the times, our clients, the executives, they just look at the high level numbers. But actually, the line level managers are the ones who drill down deeper to see how their department is performing or what they need to do better to improve their department and meet their goals.
So that's interesting. So that kind of bursts my preconceived idea that this is just CEO level information. You're saying that line level managers need to pay attention to this also.
Absolutely. Actually, our solution is used more by the line level managers, and the CEOs and the CFOs, they usually get the summary.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Yeah. And when the summary, if the margins or the profits or the sales, they start declining, that's where they bring in the line managers, and the line managers can use this information to justify why the numbers that they are seeing, right?
So you're turning line managers into experts on being able to analyze and make decisions from data. Is that correct?
Absolutely, because we want them to be the heroes, right? Because they work with their customers, they work with their vendors, they work at a lot of different touch points, and it is important for them to have access to right data to do that job better.
That's interesting because this reminds me, in my own work experience, I used to be a leadership trainer. When I was in the Navy, I was on a sea duty tour as a naval officer. Then after that, I was a trainer, and we taught Deming management methods, which was basically understanding that those people that are on the line, the sailor that is on the deck has information that needs to be brought up the chain of command without fear. and knowing that those people that are doing the work, they have a lot of information and giving them a little bit more control in making decisions. So it sounds like this is kind of in alignment with that sort of concept.
Absolutely.
And so tell us a little bit about your company, because you're a little bit different than a lot of the guests I have on here, because you're really you created a business that serves different vertical industries that teaches executives how to find and harvest and manage the data so they can make decisions. Tell me a little bit about your company. Let's kind of pull the curtain back and let's look at that a little bit. What are the things that you do with new clients and how do you onboard them? And what are some success stories that you have in that regard?
Yes, that's a great question. So one of the things that we found, especially in the mid-market and smaller law firms, small to mid-sized law firms, that they are always stretched of time. The executives, they don't have time. The line managers, they don't have time. So that's why we designed our solution. It's a packaged analytics solution. It's a done for you solution. So typically for a law firm, all we need is access to their legal management system or the CRM system. We do all the heavy lifting and we can integrate with their system and configure the out of the box about like 30 plus KPIs in less than a week.
Wow.
Okay. For manufacturing and distribution, it's a little more complex than for law. So in their case, we follow the exact same process, but we can get them up and running in about 4 to 5 weeks with 80 plus KPIs that are fully configured based on their dimension and their data.
Wow. And what sort of track record do you usually look for? Like how far back do you go on your data?
So we recommend that at least we go back 3 years. But sometimes, companies who have moved to a new system, they don't have historical data. So whatever history they have, we bring it in. But to do any trend analysis, we recommend that at least we go back 3 years.
I see. And so I'm kind of curious then, within the legal industry, how could we kind of parse or segment the different areas where people will make decisions based on the data? One of them is client development. The other one is hiring. What are some other examples of that?
So another good example is a lot of attorneys, they're moving towards flat fee.
Right.
So it is very difficult for them to understand the profitability for a flat fee or to how do you price a flat fee engagement, right? So if you have historical data, if you have historical information, we can actually do trend analysis and say, okay, you know what? These type of cases, you budgeted 40 hours, but you ended up spending 60. So you actually was not super profitable for you. So either you identify opportunities to improve efficiencies in how you deliver that engagement, or you need to increase your price. Because increasing the price always is not the right answer because you need to be competitive also. So this is where it is important to track the time and look at the utilization of each employee to see, if there was a task that an admin should have done it in like 2 hours, why did he or she take 8 hours, right? So they have to look under the covers to see what they can do to improve the efficiency.
That's great. And tell me again, how long have you been involved in this type of workstation?
So data and analytics, I've been doing it for almost like 15 plus years.
Wow.
For manufacturing and distribution, we've been doing it for like about 6 years. And law firm, we just launched this product in March of 2020. And then after we launched it, we immediately went into COVID.
Right.
We are still seeing a lot of success. And we are actually building partnerships with law firm coaches where they can actually take our information and coach their clients better.
Wow, that's great. That's innovative just in how you rolled that out. What do you think are some of the biggest trends that from the time that you have when you started till today, what are the biggest trends that you've seen in how people use this type of information?
One is they used to improve the utilization because with the exact same number of resources and staff, if they focus on increasing the utilization, that significantly helps the bottom line for a lot of the law firms.
Right.
On an average, what we have seen is that attorneys are billable about 3 to 3.5 hours a day, which is a very low number. So they need to figure out what do they need to do in order to increase that utilization. A lot of times, attorneys end up booking a lot of non-billable time. So that needs to be looked very carefully. Why are we not charging that? Sometimes it's justifiable, sometimes it's not. So a lot of our attorneys, our firms, they actually do a detailed analysis on why their staff is putting a lot of time against non-bill, because it's costing the company.
Interesting.
Then they have improved the intake process, right? For example, one of our clients, when we did the analysis on their website, a lot of people were actually clicking on the schedule a meeting, a free consultation button, but they were not all booking the free consultation. And then after looking at it, we worked with them and we saw that they were asking way too many questions and they were all mandatory upfront in that form. And that people were shying away from giving all that information upfront on the web form. So they changed their process and created a very small and a short form, which significantly increased their free consultation booking.
So in your service then, which I think is fantastic, do you work as an advisor to the firms also and how to use it? Or is it pretty much, here it is, it's off the shelf, good luck, and go for it? How do you kind of integrate that?
That's a great question. So right now, we don't have a formal advisory practice because we are also learning with them. So we offer that analysis at no cost because we want to learn as much as we can. Every firm, every managing partner wants to look at data differently. So part of our service, in addition to what we give them, we will build 5 custom reports for them at no additional cost. And one of the great example of a custom report is attorney bonus compensation. Right? Every firm has a unique formula on how they want to calculate the bonuses for their attorneys. So we work with them and we automate this process. Till without automation, they would sit and calculate and spend hours every month calculating the attorney bonuses. Once we automate it, it's available. And what some of the firms have also done is they actually give that visibility to the attorneys also. So the attorneys have their own internal target on how much extra bonus they want to get. And if they're not able to achieve it, they actually start working more creatively and work much harder in order to increase their utilization or try to go one step further and try to bring in more business for the firm. So it works. It's advantage for both the attorneys and the firm.
So this could really revolutionize the way firms manage, the way they execute. And I think that is probably the weakest area for law firms. They're very good lawyers, but a lot of them are just not very good at getting things done, at executing on actions. So I think what you have is a solution to a problem, and a lot of them might not even know that they have that problem.
You're absolutely right. Because a lot of times when we first ask them, like, what are the key KPIs you want to measure? And they usually give us like 1 or 2, and then they draw a blank because they've not been measuring what they're supposed to measure.
Right.
And we understand, right? Attorneys are busy. Everybody's busy. So part of the solution, what we have done is we have a scheduler. So you can identify what you want to measure, the frequency on what you want to measure, and then you can schedule it. So you don't necessarily have to log into our system, but our system will execute that report at that time and email it to you. So we kind of feed information to the lawyers. Because what we noticed is when we feed information to them, there is a much higher chance of them looking at that information rather than them waiting for them to come and log into our system and then look at the data.
Interesting. Well, it's kind of funny if you asked prospects of yours if you think they would need it. A lot of them, it's kind of like if Thomas Edison asked his prospects, what do you need? They would say, we need brighter candles. They just might not know that they really need that light bulb. They need brighter candles. And you're offering them a light bulb. And it probably would just blow a lot of them away to where they're slapping their forehead saying, wow, how come I didn't think about that before? It's so obvious to me now. And I think that once somebody has actually done work with data and they've seen how powerful it is, then they're a believer. Once they see a little bit, then they see, wow, this is great. We couldn't have made this decision except for knowing what the information was that what helped us to make this decision. So tell me this, and as we close here, we're going to put all your links on the show notes. I'm going to highly recommend that people check out the links on the show notes on how to reach you. But what are 3 action steps if somebody wants to get started looking at data within their company, whether it's an owner of a business or an executive or a line manager? What are 3 action steps you'd recommend that they take action on to kind of get started on this?
I think the first thing I would say is identify how many different applications do you use and do they talk to each other? Is the data is in sync? Second is meet with your team and identify what kind of questions you want to ask your data. Forget about where the data lives or how you're going to do it. In simple language, right? What questions do I want to ask my data? And that will turn into the key KPIs that you should be measuring.
And let me ask you this. What are some examples of questions that people have come up with?
So one example is, right, if somebody says, okay, I want to grow my revenue from $500,000 to $750,000. Okay. So how many free consultations have we booked to get $500,000? So now in order to do that, how many more consultations do we need to book to get to that next revenue number?
I see.
How many consultations are actually converting into clients, and in which practice area are they converting into clients?
Got it. Okay. That's great. And then what's your third action step?
The third action step is to identify areas where they can automate and not depend on human resources to actually do the work. If they can automate certain things, that has to be immediately automated so that the resources that we have, they can work on much strategic options within the company and not just spend hours, things that we can do it in minutes.
Great. Well, Sachin, this is great. This is mind-blowing to me because it's really expanded what my preconceived ideas were about data. And I'm going to spend time within my own small business integrating some of these concepts that you mentioned to me. And everybody listening, I'd highly recommend you check out Sachin's website links. Like I mentioned before, we'll put those on the website or on the show note links. And Sachin, thanks for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, Scott. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too.
Thank you for listening to the Rainmaking Podcast. For more information about our recruiting services for international law firms, visit our website at attorneysearchgroup.com. To inquire about having Scott speak at your next convention, conference, sales meeting, or executive retreat, visit therainmakingpodcast.com.